Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Follow the Scribe podcast. Now, for today, I have an artist with me, Alexis Steyn, out of Perth, Australia, but originally from South Africa. Is that correct?
Yes, that's very great.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I'm very pleased to have you on my podcast and to actually talk with an artist because I've seen a very interesting project that.
That's all right. Yeah, you're right. I've got a brand new series that I've kind of been working on for, I'm gonna say, over a year now. It's
Mm,
taken a really long time to
yeah. Before we get
get
to
it.
that, could you present yourself in 200 characters or less? No, I'm just joking.
It's tough ask here. Okay, so thank you very much for having me on your podcast, by the way. My name is Alexis, and I'm an artist from Australia. And a lot of my work is based, I guess, around exploring femininity, nature, and I guess mankind's fascination with nature and our place in the universe. And this particular, I guess, thing that I'm going to be talking to about, this new collection I've kind of started, is all about zodiac signs. So that will be quite an interesting topic to speak about. But yeah, I'm very happy to be here and just discuss all things creative with you. And yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your. I don't like that term, but I'm going to be forced to use it. Your formative years as an artist.
Okay. I would say probably because I'm quite, young in my career. Um, like I'm only 26 years old, and I've only been, I guess, doing this for the past 3 years now. So you could say quite a fresh artist on the block still. Yeah, but I've been doing it since I was a child, and it's always been something I've been drawn to, creating any sort of expression, drawing, you name it. Like, that was my thing growing up. And I would say just, yeah, learning and developing creative skill, gaining inspiration from, different things that I find fascinating, subjects that I'm not necessarily, how do you say, like, not political, but, or, maybe, making a statement about, the world around us, or political things. But I think I've always been kind of drawn to themes that are like otherworldly or a bit more mystical. And even in my youth, like, it's been just a continuous theme of that continually. Yeah.
Your first kind of attempt to tap into the kind of the mystery. When did you discover that the mystery was real? Like, that there are some things you can't explain using
Yeah,
science or yeah.
exactly. It's a funny question, because I feel like I've always had this thing within me, like, since I was a child, like as early as I can remember. Like, I've always had this, you could say maybe it's like an inner knowing, or like an inner feeling, like that there's something more, or there's like something beyond our experience. Or, we're all raised in a different way. We've got, a lot of people who are raised with religion in their lives, or they're atheist, or whatever you are. I think that's going to condition you to some point, because you're going to have a belief in something, and that's going to shape your belief system. But I come from a Catholic background, and I'm not a religious person today, but I think just by starting off with some sort of belief in God and being brought up that way gives you maybe just that like feeling of, okay, well, there must be something more. And of course you could go from one way to the next. You could go from, I believe in God, and then maybe you get older and you go, oh, you know what, I totally don't believe in that anymore. But on a more intuitive level, or you could even say on a spiritual level, I used to, like, this is going to sound a bit crazy and weird, but I used to say to my mom, like, you know, I'd have these crazy dreams as a little kid, and I'd always, you know, tell her about them, and I'd say, like, you know, I feel like really alive when I sleep, you know, like I've come alive when I'm dreaming, like that's like when I'm really maybe like astro traveling, or, you know, doing something, you know, beyond the physical, or what we can explain in the physical. And, you know, my mom, being a very Catholic person at the time, was kind of freaked out by, you know, what I would say to her. But yeah, I think the creativity, or the mystery of, you know, the universe and life itself, like I've always just been drawn to that since I was really young. And I always had this, I don't know, just a inner feeling that I always have God with me. Or like, you can go to church, you can go to the mosque, the synagogue, wherever, you know, to pray. And if that's the way you want to pray, then, you know, that's perfect. But I always just felt like it didn't matter where I was or what I was doing. Like, you know, God is always within you. God is not, to me, like an external force. I think God is everything, and God is within. And I don't know, that just in a way also pushed my my own understanding of it, and how I choose to convey that in my art. Yeah.
You've mentioned something about astral travel.
Yeah. So I think it's kind of like our almost exploring like mankind's fascination, you know, with the natural elements around us, and also how we've evolved over time, you know. So now I feel like we've become a lot more involved in, you know, AI technology, a lot of, you know, that scientific research, and, you know, really diving deep into transhumanism and that kind of thing. But I didn't really want to go down that path. My focus was more on, you could say maybe like organic, you know, the organic around us. So, you know, plants, nature, what is still, you know, kept in the
OG, the OG planet, shall we say.
Yeah, the OG planet. I like that. Yeah, and kind of as we are, you know, still discovering, you know, places around us and ourselves, I feel like there's always a quest to keep discovering who we are as people, you know, that self-discovery. And I don't think that that's necessarily ever going to go away, because as individuals, we're always trying to progress, get better, we're evolving and changing. But I think for me it was just, how can I maybe incorporate a bit of man's place in our world, like kind of where we sit, not just today but in ancient times as well, our understanding of our culture, our way of being, and, you know, different cultures doing different things. How can I incorporate that into art, and almost tell a bit of a story, and, you know, also try and get people to think, you know, I want it to be thought-provoking. How do they think about, you know, the zodiacs or astrology, for example, or what are their thoughts on, you know, Adam and Eve? I don't know, it could be anything, you know, any time period in our history, but usually relating to beliefs, and our surroundings, and where we fit into the universe on planet Earth.
Well, yeah, I feel the same. I have the same kind of connection with, you know, I think I take a similar approach to you, in that I want to know things that are virtually unknowable in some capacity. When they discovered the caves of Altamira, for example, and they saw the great artists that lived at around 300,000 BC, they said, it's insane.
Yeah.
It can't be. It changes the entire perception of what mankind's evolution really is. The zodiac is interesting. There's a strong connection. There's a belief. You want to believe that the star signs have some sort of meaning. There's some motive behind it, that the universe is trying to shape or design your life in a certain way and direction, and endows you with a lot of different traits and characteristics that are influenced by the stars. But that's a kind of a far-reaching idea. But I'm interested to know your take on astrology and the zodiac.
Yeah, like I completely agree with you, because it seems like, especially in the context of today, like you can go and get a newspaper or a magazine, and you'll have your little section for the week of what it says about your star sign this week. And I just find it a little bit like amusing, because I think it's such a far cry from ancient astrology and where it came from. And then we've almost made it like a bit trivial today. Like I don't know, like if that's a bit offensive to some people, like that's just my personal feeling on it. Like, yeah, you definitely do have genuine astrologers out there who are trying to teach people, the ancient way, or they're trying to still incorporate that knowledge. But
yeah, clearly it worked for the ancient precursors of man, or the leaders of civilizations. It's very odd to think about how such primitive creatures could could form great civilizations like that. It is very striking, I think, to ponder
Well, then
upon.
it makes you think, how primitive were they? Because I think, like, our understanding, as you say, of even when our civilization began, this is just my belief on it, but I don't agree. I don't agree that we're as young as we think we are. I think our civilization dates back hundreds of thousands of years, and that's just based on my own research and things that have come up that are, as you said, like, they're inexplainable. Like, how do you explain things that have happened? And it doesn't make any sense fitting into the timeline. You just have to look at ancient ruins, or ancient like the Sphinx, for example, like in Egypt. How do you date that back? I think we've got a limited understanding.
Yeah, it's a big mystery. The discrepancy between man's supposed timeline, stuff like this, that date back to 50,000 years, even some of the oldest ones, which is puzzling. It's puzzling. It's not like the Inca crop circles or stuff like this. I know all of the conspiracy theories, almost. I know some of them I was privy to by a friend of mine who really delves in. He interviews a lot of, let's say, interesting people, shall we say. They are really on the far reaches of civilized society. Okay, they are out of the concrete jungle, in their perceptions, and they really, they venture off quite far, like to to realms where no civilized or thinking person has ever went to. But
yeah, I didn't want to, like, I don't mind, female empowerment. Like, I don't mind that term, but it was more so, creating an archetype, especially with this specific illustration series, which is my Zodiac series, and I called it Written in the Stars. And, I don't ever like to just dive into something without doing, the proper research or learnings. And I think that comes from, my graphic design background. We were always taught, before you take on any project, you have to research to the death, and then, you develop your ideas from there, and then you can create something. It's got to have functionality, and it has to have purpose. You can't just create something and you don't even understand what you're creating. So with astrology, I was like, you know what, I know a bit about it. I've got an understanding. I've, done my own, I guess, research on it for years, but it's not the same thing as actually learning from someone. So what did I do? I went and I studied with a tutor, and it was a totally different thing.
Wow.
Yeah, I really wanted to go all in on this experience. And
so you designed your own map and stuff like that.
Well, the thing was, like, I wanted to, like, dive right into it. And when you're creating anything, I just really wanted the knowledge. And I've got this thing where I've got to know.
That's some like Stanislavski method kind of thing, trying to actually get into the shoes of the character that you're going to portray in the movie. It's the same kind of concept. That's like 3 levels above the fray, shall we say.
Well, I just felt like, I needed to kind of know what I was dealing with. And it took me by surprise, because I went in, open-minded, as you would. It's a mystical subject matter. It's not, anything generic. But I was very open-minded. And when choosing the course that I was going to do with the tutor, I really looked at different courses, and then I went with the one that I felt like, okay, this one looks really good, and I just had a really good feeling about it. And this course is based on evolutionary astrology, so it's quite different to predictive astrology, as I think, which is used quite a lot today. Predictive astrology. And evolutionary astrology is, it's based on the notion that we are all agents of our own free will. We can change, we can evolve, we can, develop as we go along. And, in astrology, they believe that each sign comes with its own characteristics and traits. However, your characteristics and your traits, they don't define who you are. It's your own life path, your life journey, and how you're going to respond and react that really matters. And hence, evolution, like the evolution of who you are as a person, and growing and learning from your mistakes, and, choosing, am I going to become the good person who, grows, or am I going to stifle myself, on the other hand, and become a victim?
Tell you, thank you so much.
That's okay.
We are definitely going to talk again.